Hey everyone, welcome to the Soulful Eclectic. I am your host, Diana Collins, and I want to welcome you back to this episode. If you are new, thank you so much for taking the time to spend your time with me. And if you are coming back, I want to say welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and coming back and sharing your feedback with me. This episode is actually part two to Stephanie Coradin's visit conversation that we had together. And in this part, we talked about anxiety and getting over your anxiety, or not even getting over your anxiety, but working through your anxiety, because you can never get over it. And that's one of the things if you listen to our theme, we tell you it's a journey. All right, and it's always going to be with you as part of you. It's just learning how to cope with it and making it a part of your life and not your life. So in this part, we're going to talk about relationships, because I just love talking about relationships and how we're coping during this time, and getting different suggestions on how we can maintain not only ourselves but also the integrity of our relationships. And that can be either those intimate relationships or those friendship relationships, which to me are also intimate. But thank you. And with that, we're going to lead right into our next episode, part two. Talking about relationships at some point. And during the pandemic, we are all faced in our relationships and actually have to face our relationships a little more closely than we had, because we're not at work full time and, doing things like that. How has the pandemic, one, impact you, and then your family, raising kids and things like that?
So for me, I've worked from home for, what is it now? Full time. I've worked from home since 2017.
Okay.
So I have been, I guess I could say lucky in that sense, where this is not, the pandemic wasn't the beginning of my working from home. It was the beginning of virtual schooling. So the impact I can say for me is that I had to pivot a little bit to include my younger daughter, my 11-year-old, into my daily life, in the sense that I am the teacher now,
right?
Because even though the teacher is there with them, they don't ask the teacher the questions. They come to mom. So in that sense, I've had to pivot a bit. So what I had to do there is kind of, create days. Before, I coached all the time unless I was doing workshops in corporate. But now I created days where I have coaching days and days that I'm not coaching. And that was the deal that I had with her. I'm like, if it's a coaching day, you have to ask your teacher the questions, or if it's something that can wait, we'll wait till afternoon, and then I'll get to everything with you. But if it's not a coaching day, then you're okay to come back and forth and ask me questions. And that's worked, because the first couple of months, I felt like I was going to, go crazy or something, trying to juggle everything. And relationship-wise, for me, it's not been too bad, because I have not had to be any more with my husband than I would normally be, because he's still working out.
Oh, okay.
But also, I guess with my counseling knowledge, we've always been one to be very open with each other and talk about everything. We have these communication days once a month, where we give each other a path to talk about everything that's happened in that month, without arguing or without offense, and so on and so forth. And I think that's helped us build as far as we are now. It's helped us get to a point where we feel comfortable enough with each other, and we know enough about each other to where it's not a shock if we have to be in the same room for more than a week. So I think that's helped, and I've been, giving my clients that suggestion to where be more open, try to, involve your spouse or your partner in more things that you're doing, and try to get involved in more things that they're doing, so that it's not a shock when you have to be with the person, because I've noticed that that's the biggest problem that people have been having.
Wow.
is that the person they married is no longer the person that they know that's there, and it's like, wow, I didn't even realize that I was living with somebody that I didn't know at all.
So you can take that opportunity to get to know each other again, right?
Exactly.
Having
and yeah, but that's the caveat. It's because they don't have a choice. They're forced to get to know each other again, and a lot of times they're realizing that they don't like what they're seeing in this point in their life.
Right, and it doesn't work for them. So now
exactly.
The other part of that is, what do you do with that?
So that's a loaded question.
Hey, what do you do with that?
It's a loaded question because some people are willing to work and get to know each other as they are in the moment, but some aren't. And what I saw, because I started when the pandemic started, I got called by my old counseling facility, and I am still licensed. I keep up my license.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing therapy again, and a lot of times one party wants to make it work, but the other one is not willing. And it's not that they're admitting that they don't want to make it work, but they're not willing to put in the work it takes to make it work.
Because it is work. It is work. Marriage is work. Relationships is work. And you have to know that going in, that once the dust settles and the grass is growing and it's not growing anymore, what are you going to do to help maintain that lawn?
Exactly. And unfortunately, as both of us are Black, in the Black community, a lot of times Black men have a stigma on counseling and therapy. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of times, the woman is willing, but the man isn't. And I found on a few occasions where the man is willing, but the woman isn't. To go to counseling, to speak to somebody, to have somebody else help. Because it's in their mind is, I don't want somebody else in my business.
Yes, because that's the way we were raised. You keep your business in the house. And then if your counselor doesn't look like you, you definitely keep your business in the house.
Yes.
So that's another thing too. And I'm not saying this against any, other race of counselors or anything like that, because I have friends from all over this world. And I love it that I have such eclectic friends. But it's just something real that is there when someone is going to look for a counselor and your counselor doesn't look like you. You're going to feel like they don't understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
So,
and I've had that said to me literally in those words. Like, I'm so happy I found you because I feel like XYZ did not understand me or couldn't possibly understand me.
Right. And sometimes that is true because they don't have the same lifestyles that we have. They don't live in the same communities. They don't have the same struggles that we've had. They may be similar culture-wise. Exactly. So it's those caveats that, as crazy as it may sound, is they don't understand. So you need someone that looks like you, or even has a firm understanding of where it is you came from.
Exactly.
All right. That's how I want to say that. Has a firm understanding of where you're coming from. Because I have met white people, Indians, all nationalities, and you will find a few that really do understand where it is you're coming from. But that's a needle in a haystack.
It is. It really is. And I mean, again, not to knock anybody else, but we have a specific set
of needs.
Of needs and issues and a mentality that not many people understand, even family-wise, our family dynamics. For example, one thing I always go to is in a Caucasian family, when the person's 18, they're an adult and they're out. But not necessarily in a Black family.
No.
You know? And so when you go to, you know, a Caucasian therapist and you're like, well, my mom, and you're 22 maybe, let's say, and you're like, well, my mom didn't want me to, and they're like, wait, what? You're an adult. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's not how that works.
Right. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
So it's little things, it's little nuances that can make a big difference.
It really is. It really is. And it's funny you say that, because it's like we strive on, I don't know, I always wanted that extended family at home, like have the big house and my kids live on one side, they got the grand, that kind of thing. And fortunately, I've raised them to be such independent women that they've, you know, branched out and did their thing, and they're, you know, doing their own thing. With my 25-year-old who boomeranged back home, but it's that same thing, because you know you'll hear people say, "Well, she's 25, kick her out. She's 23, kick her out," and it's like, no,
no, no, she's my daughter. I don't care.
I don't care. That's my kid. She needs help. I'm here. This is what I'm going to do. You know. So it's those little things, like you said, it's like, no, okay, I see you don't understand anything I'm talking about right now. So, and it totally puts up that wall between you and that person. Yep. And just from me growing as an adult and a mom and a wife and all these things, my kids have been in therapy for different situations, from, you know, leaving their father when they were smaller and things like that, because I was always concerned about their mental health. So as my daughter's now older, my oldest daughter, she came and she said to me, Mom, you know, I just told, you know, Miss June and Miss Rita what they wanted to hear. They don't know. I was like, I said, what?
And that's a big one too.
Because we right. And I mentioned that because that's one of the things that some would do. Just tell them what they want to hear.
And sometimes even as adults, and it's funny because I was on a thing just yesterday, and people would ask questions, and the person answered the questions, and I knew that the answer that the person gave was not really what the person that asked the question was looking for. But once they're saying, so did you get that? Yeah, that more than answered my question. Thank you. And I'm like, no, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
I'm sitting here and I know it didn't.
Exactly.
But you don't want to be that person, you know, that's going to go back and be like, well, you didn't quite answer my question. And so that's what happens. The person leaves with still not knowing the answer to their question. And it's the same thing with therapy. Like, I'm just going to tell so-and-so what they want to hear. And as kids do that anyway, you know? So when it's somebody that is, quote-unquote, Mom is making me go,
right,
I'm just going to hurry through this.
Exactly.
You know?
And then we carry that into adults, you know, and, you know, I've had adults who say, yeah, I've gone to therapy, but, you know, I just tell them all the right answers and then, you know, go about my business. Even with couples counseling, same thing. You know, yeah, I just tell her, yeah, I'll do whatever to make my wife happy and just go. And it's like, no, you have to really tell them how you are feeling. You are part of this relationship. You know,
and that's the other side of that. As we circle back to the relationship part, even when the person doesn't go to therapy, you don't know how long they spend just making the other person happy. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to do what she says because I don't want to hear her mouth. And so there, at that point, you guys are just existing. You know, you guys are just together just to be together.
Yes, there's no quality in that relationship. Yep. And
things like that boil over when we're stuck together.
Oh.
When you have to be stuck with the person and there's no way out.
Yes, and that's what we're seeing during this
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, right?
There you go.
That's what we're seeing during this pandemic. And then you have the extended negative end of it if you're in an abusive relationship, right?
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you're kind of bound in this room, in this
Mm-hmm.
home with this abusive
There's nowhere to
person.
go.
There's nowhere to go. So developing those outlets is also going to be key, and reaching out and things like that. I don't know what I was talking. I talk about so many things. I have no idea. But I was talking with someone. I think it was another one of my guests actually, and we were talking about being in the confinement with an abuser. How do you get those outlets out? How do you reach out for help in those events, right? So while we're talking about it, it just came to mind, so I figure I'd just share it. Tell people to create a safe word, a safe phrase when they call their friend that will elude them that they're in trouble. And I think I saw this, like someone sent it to me on a YouTube or something like that, where the woman called her friend and said, can I have that banana bread recipe? And it had nothing to do with banana bread, but he was being abusive to her, and he was home, and she needed help.
And that is amazing, and I wish more people would use it, because guess what? A lot of times people who are in abusive relationships suffer alone, from fear, from embarrassment, from you name it, a list of things, and they don't get that far.
Right.
Like, they don't get as far as to be comfortable enough with somebody to say, I'm going to create a safe word just in case. And even if they do get that far, sometimes they don't, they're like too embarrassed or too afraid to even use that safe word.
Right.
Because they're afraid of the repercussions. Because once you say, can I have that banana bread recipe, then cops have to come over, or at least a friend has to come over and get you.
Right.
And people, and that's where their anxiety comes in, if I may use that word, because when you're anxious like that, you spiral into the worst case scenario.
Yes. And that's why I mentioned it, because I think the community needs to know this. That
yes, and so my hope is that more people start using things like that. So I'm happy you mentioned that as well, because my hope is that more people start using safe words and start having that one, even if it's that one person, but at least one person that you can speak with that is not going to judge you for staying this long, but is going to just be there when you need the help.
Yes. And in a lot of the minority communities, that's hard. And I say it is the Black and brown communities, right? Because we don't have those resources. We don't have a lot of those family connections. And we're constantly being judged.
Yep.
So you don't want to put anyone in that position, because then you have that other part of the anxiety where if he's going to beat me, what is he going to do to her? And, when she comes over and helps or whatever. But if you're, just to put this out there, if you do create a safe word and you do go over to help your friend, do not go alone.
Exactly.
Do not go alone. That's definitely bring the police with you.
Yeah. Don't bring your brother. Don't bring somebody else that's going to end up in jail either, especially in the Black and brown community, because you don't want to go help and end up, when the cops are finally called, you end up like either in handcuffs or even worse, God forbid.
Right.
So just call the cops to begin with.
Yes, and have them come with you, explain the situation, and do it that way. But you never want to go over there alone, because that actually can make matters worse. Not that the cops being there will not make it worse, but it's a little safer than...
It's a little safer.
Just
especially if you start, like, if things are not escalating. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to the person's house and you call the cops to walk you there, it's a little less tension
Mm-hmm.
between you and the cops. I mean, not between the people, but between you and the cops.
Right.
So that when you get there, because if you're calling the cops when you get there and things are already array, then that's when the cops are coming in, hot and bothered, tension, and all that good stuff.
Exactly. So definitely protect yourself and the individual that you're going to help. So yeah. How have you looked at the divorce rate since the pandemic? I was just curious.
I actually have not looked at them.
Yeah, I was just curious because we talked about, being and having that conversation, home if you're, in a domestic violence situation, even if you're not in a domestic violence situation. We talked about not liking your spouse and realizing the spouse isn't the same person you married, right?
Yeah.
And people evolve, and there's nothing wrong with that. People evolve. You are allowed and expected to change as you grow.
To change, exactly.
So you don't want to say you're supposed to be the same person you were 20, 30 years ago. Absolutely not. But sometimes what we evolve and grow into can be a little bit much for the other person to handle. And if they're not in that position or not wanting to work on it and grow with you, it does pose that breakup and separation and divorce,
Exactly. And sometimes, guess what? I mean, it may sound a little cynical, but sometimes that's where you are.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And it's best to do that, especially when there are kids involved. I always say, if you guys are not existing and it's an unhappy household, I would much rather you go your separate ways instead of continuing to traumatize the kids, because sometimes you think they don't notice it, but they notice way more than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. My goodness, yeah. They do. God love our kids. Their brains are just they're sponges, right? And
exactly.
And just like we tell individuals as your kids are developing, it's best to teach them a new language when they're younger. And it's the same. It's for that reason, because their brains are able to absorb it and grow. So just imagine if you're teaching them a whole different language, what they're absorbing just from looking around in their environment, home and outside. Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, we have to take care of our children, and if you're unhappy, just know they see it.
Yep.
They see it.
Do.
They feel
Big
it.
time.
And even the best magicians can't hide that. So just
they know the difference.
They do. And as adults, it's our responsibility to own it and do better and make those changes. Either seek help or part ways amicably. As best as possible, right? I want to say that, because sometimes parting ways cannot be amicable, no matter how hard you try.
No matter how hard you try, but I think the other part there, and before we close out, is that I think the longer you let it linger, the messier it is.
Yes, definitely. So, I definitely want to thank you for sharing that and, putting that out there, that there is a level of help out there, and you can find therapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists out there. There's a whole list of practitioners that are there that can meet your needs, and you may not like the first one, so you go to the next one. So you're never right. So you're never, I'm going to say, married to one one therapist or another. So you have that ability to change and find who's going to suit
that
you.
Too.
Right.
I like to throw that out there. It's like anything else in life. You didn't feel that connection, that chemistry, just move on. Go to another one. You're not stuck. You're not, there's no contract where you have to have a specific amount of sessions with a person. None of that. And, I always suggest keep looking until you find that person that you feel extremely comfortable with, that you feel that you can tell anything to.
Yes, because you want that outlet. You need that outlet. And I'm going to say, even for me, I mean, I don't know. I always tell my therapist, I don't know why I'm talking to you, but because
people tell me that all the time.
Right, I don't know why I'm talking to you, but it is just really just conversations like you and I have. That's the conversations we have. But it's good to talk to someone who is outside looking in to help you navigate. And it doesn't have to be every week, every 2 weeks. It can be whenever you feel like you need it. And
I have a therapist, and I only reach out to him like maybe once every 3 months. He's like, oh, hey, Stephanie, you remembered me. And I'm like, yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Once every 3 months. There is a time where I went weekly, but I got to a point where I didn't need that. So if you don't need it, it's not necessary, but he's there for me. He knows that, if I need him, I know where to reach him, and that's the relationship we have now.
Right. And that's why I wanted to share that. It's like, even the most put together person that you think has it all together, it's because of those other people that we talk to that help us keep it together.
Yep. Everybody needs coverage. Everybody needs that support.
Exactly. And it could be spiritual, mental, physical, whatever. You need some sort of support to maintain yourself, mind, body, and soul. If your mind is not right, your body's going to start to feel it, guys. It just, that's the way it happens. So, just to kind of close us all out, take care of your mind, your body, your soul, and it all will just encompass. If you need help, just reach out. Stephanie left her information, and we'll say it again just in case you missed it in the first part. We'll get it again in the second part. But she's available for assistance. She has her coffee chats that are great. I might chime in on one of her coffee chats just to kind of see what's going on in her coffee room.
Yes.
I'm always down for that. And so thank you, Stephanie, so much. I mean, you gave definitely some gems during the conversation. So I want to thank you for reaching out again. Thank you for being a part of the Soulful Tribe. It's like I like to call it, the Soulful Tribe. And
Thank you so much for having me, Diana.
Oh, you're welcome. And I definitely will be reaching out to you again. And definitely if you feel like you have a topic that you've come across and you want to definitely put out there, definitely give me a call and we can definitely put that out there. I'm all for it. Because the more we can get the community involved and increase their knowledge, that's what it's all about, because we want the community to learn and advocate for themselves, because we need to close that healthcare equity gap. We need to close those disparities, and these communities should not have the level of disparities that they're facing at this time. So
of course,
I want to thank you for the mental health check, right? The mental health check.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun. I always enjoy these types of conversations, so I'm always down for them.
Awesome. Again, I want to thank Stephanie so much for the great conversation, the great gems that she passed on to us. It was amazing conversation, and I look forward to our next conversation on and off the radio or podcast world. But also, I want you guys to also reach out to her. She can be reached at www.stephaniecoradin.com, and definitely give her a shout and book your complimentary fast action tip and have a chat with Stephanie. I thoroughly suggest that you do so. And if you love what we were talking about and you want to share, please share the podcast, or you can also give me some feedback. www.thesoulfuleclectic.com is the website. And also you can reach me on Facebook, DC at thesoulfuleclectic.com is my email. And also Facebook, DC Soulful Eclectic. And we also have Instagram, right? Thus.Soulful Eclectic. And I just look forward to just hearing from everyone and, someone just sharing how the episode impacted them and they were able to use the tips or even shared it with a family or friend. So that's also great to hear too. So I thank you all for being a part of the Soul Tribe. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe. I would appreciate that. And down the line, we have some great things coming. So I will definitely keep you all posted as you for the subscribers. I will keep you all posted as to the new things that are coming up. And also for those who haven't subscribed yet, I'll still keep you posted because it's all about community. So sending love and light out to all of you and also to your family and friends. And please check in on each other and practice self-care and self-love. I look forward to hearing from you. Namaste.